bookers!
Hi again. We're actually together tonight. Live! Yay, vaccines!
Let's have a hug! Yeah. I'd love to see you.
I think that's the first hug I've had all this time. I don't think I've hugged Curtis.
I'm sorry, Curtis.
Well, maybe my mom hugged me last weekend when I saw her.
Yeah, because we both traveled.
Yeah. It is weird though, because like we went out to eat several times the last few days, and it's like, okay, it's kind of starting to feel. I mean, even though we sat like away from people and on patios and stuff in some of the places, it's starting to feel a little more like normal. And,
yeah, we went to a little party last night, a crepe party at some friend's house.
Yum.
It's good to have French friends because they buy serious crepe makers.
Do you know how to make crepes?
I do,
Okay.
but he's got this massive electric crepe maker.
Oh.
They plug it in and then spin it on, and then there's this whole French technique.
So did you make like dessert crepes or like
Made
dessert?
savory and dessert.
Yeah.
So it was
I've never had the savory kind, but I've heard about them, but
Yeah.
I've never had them.
It was pretty fun, and no masks because everybody was vaccinated. So
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah, pretty cool. Hope everything's good for you guys too, and that things are getting back to normal.
A
And all
little bit
that,
back
so.
to normal. I know. I think the U.S. is a bit ahead. I know Canada's still struggling, and Europe is still struggling. So we hope that everybody gets there soon. It's nice to be a little bit normal again.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got my phone going so we can look for comments.
Okay. Awesome.
Kathleen Kaminsky, hi. Thanks for coming. Glad to have you here.
Hey, Kath.
So I loved this book. And I was just telling Melissa, like, when I was, coming up with questions to talk to her about, I realized that there was a lot of deeper issues in this book, but she handled them very subtly so that they didn't feel heavy or overwhelming, or I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, you're dealing with, really serious stuff in a cozy. It was just kind of things that you touched on. But I liked that because that's real life. Mm-hmm. And I think it added a deeper element to the book.
Good.
We've got Sue Stoner. Oh, Kathleen's on vacation. Lucky her.
Wow, and you're hanging out with us. That's nice.
Yay. That means we're on vacation.
We made the vacation itinerary. That feels extra special.
It does. I'm glad I sprayed my roots. I can see I missed a spot over here, though. Oh, wait, which way? Right there, I got a big white spot. So I'll just go like this for the rest of the time. I colored in
my eyebrows, so yeah, we're all good.
Yeah. I know that's one thing about getting back to normal. It's like, oh, okay, now I got to start like wearing pants again.
Yeah, I read something today that said the number one, or like lipstick has seen a massive increase in sales.
Oh, well, that's
since
good.
The vaccinations have gone up so substantially.
Yeah. I'm sure the Mary Kay ladies will be happy about that. Yeah, because of masks, you don't want to wear them and get them all over the mask. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'd love to hear what you guys thought about the book. Susan Slavinsky said she loved it.
Thank you, Susan.
I loved it too. And I know someone posted, Mary Crooks posted on our page today that she thought it was your best of the series.
Yeah, I've had a couple people say that, which is very cool. Very nice to hear.
But I wonder if that's related to kind of digging a little deeper too, maybe.
Maybe.
The impact, and they always say give things high stakes. So
yeah.
I
don't know. She didn't elaborate. Mary, if you're there, you can type in and tell us why. Why did you think that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure because to me, I'm writing the book and I'm in it and involved, and it doesn't feel any different exactly than any other book that I've written. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, they all just kind of sort of come as they are.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Vando Focaccia.
Okay, so this is the book Death Gone Awry, and let's see if I can do this well. So that's the Vando Focaccia.
Yum, yum.
Yum, yum. And that's Agatha, this way, Agatha, modeled after my own little sweet pug bean. So Diane and I did a baking show the other day.
The Great Hillsborough Bake Off.
Yeah, where we made gluten-free focaccia, Vando bread art. And that came about because, so I'm always looking for a type of bread to include in the book, in the new books that I'm writing, something that's interesting, that's just a little bit more than your ordinary, sandwich bread. And so Diane had actually, we figured out, sent me this a long time ago, a picture of this Vando art that she had seen, I think, on Instagram. And so that prompted me to contact Terry Coletto, who is the Vineyard Baker, and say, hey, I love this. Can I use it on the cover of my book? Because I wanted to make sure that the cover artist would include the Vando Focaccia. And she said, yeah, absolutely. And then I ended up interviewing her just like a week and a half ago. So that's also up on our YouTube. We have kind of this mishmash YouTube station and also on Instagram. And then she let us gave us permission to put her recipe also in the back of the book, and it's on my website also. So that was very cool. It was very fun to make. I think that I had fun. I think they turned out great, and they tasted really good.
It was fun, and you could really totally make it your thing. Like she did this beautiful, like nice art with flowers, and I just did goofy cats that ended up kind of looking like I posted them on my page, and I'm sure you did too. That's kind of our personality. She's like, the fancy, but still more artistic, and I don't have an artistic eye, so I always go for the humorous effects. That's my only hope.
Well, I wish I was more humorous.
It was fun though. I think we did a really good job.
Yeah, so. It was a lot of fun. So I would highly encourage y'all to try some fando focaccia or just some bread art, whatever.
Yeah.
Cats or whatever.
Yeah. So we've got Lynn from Canada.
Hey, Lynn.
Trey's here, and Kathleen says she's the Kathy behind Cozy Up with Kathy.
I know, yeah, and she's a cover quote on one of my books. That was crazy exciting.
Oh, and Lynn says the recipe is actually quite easy and definitely fun. You should try it. My teens make it. So that's anytime you get your kids involved in something, that's nice. Or get them to cook if they think it's fun.
Yeah.
I was thinking when we were doing it, I was thinking this would be fun like for Girl Scouts or like a ladies' night out. Yeah. Book club. Yeah. Just something kind of fun to do. And then you can eat and you can make it like a flatbread using pizza dough and stuff too.
Yeah, because it all can be prepped ahead of time with the dough. And then you have fun just doing the designs. And then it only takes 15 minutes to cook.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, of course, she had the dough ready in advance, but I was surprised like how quickly we did it.
Yeah,
because we did it, and then her birthday was this week, so then we went to Chewy's and had margaritas and Mexican food for lunch.
We're still celebrating.
Yeah, we're still celebrating gin and tonics tonight. We both kind of had hectic weekends. Okay, so my next question is: so I was a former PTA mom. Melissa was a teacher in a former life, and when I was in the PTA, I went to some of the board meetings for the school district and stuff like that. And just within the PTA, there was so much politics. And I learned that there's politics in the schools. There's politics between the PTAs and the administration and within the administration and all that. So I found the plot line very relatable. It was like, I've lived, some of this, from the parent perspective, not from an administrator or teacher perspective. But did your background, I'm assuming it gave you a lot of insights into...
Yeah. And I taught middle school English primarily, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and a little bit in an alternate high school setting for kids that couldn't make it in the regular school setting. So like teen parents and some gang members. This was in California. Lovely kids, actually, really, truly. That was pretty cool. But it's been a long time. But my husband is in education, too. So he's in administration and has been at all kinds of different levels in the central office and in principalships. So I have a lot of inside information about the interworkings of school district politics through him, it definitely informed some of this book. We've had a few crazy experiences. That know of a few crazy experiences that are in this book. And I would say that the victim is definitely modeled after. It does not resemble anyone in any way, shape, or form except that it's modeled after someone that we know who was truly just kind of evil. So
well, and we draw on so many things from our lives and real lives that we learn, like people's funny personality traits or things like that, or just people that are larger than life in good ways or in bad ways, and it does help. I think
it's cathartic.
Yeah, and I think writers and probably people who do theater too are just sort of always doing kind of character studies, people watchers, and really kind of like trying to figure people out and stuff like that. So it's fun.
Yeah, because I didn't know this person all that well. I just was witness to some of the kind of awful things that she did to a few people. But, I also kind of knew her and a few other people's perspective on things, particularly immigration, because that was a big issue where we were at. And so that factored in, like that informed some of the plot line, as that evolved, because if you've read the book, you can see there are a couple of different strands of things going on, and lots of people, it's like the Orient Express. There are a lot of people that could have been in line to do her in. So yeah, that was interesting and definitely able to pull from real life.
We had issues too when my kids were in the Mansfield, Texas school district, which was the last school district in the country to desegregate. Yeah, which we didn't know that when we moved there. Luckily, when we moved there, it was very well integrated, and we were very happy about that. But we had someone sent anonymously to the PTA board. They were upset about Muslim students getting time off to pray. And I thought they didn't have the balls to sign their thing. They just wrote something about, are you an American? And it's like, oh my gosh, wow. What's more American than having a broad spectrum of religions or no religion or, So I was one of the first, I wrote to the whole PTA board, but I was the first to respond. And of course, with my lawyer background, I'm looking up what does the code say, for the district. And it says, for any religion. So I wrote back, any religion can, request these things.
Yeah.
And they never did say who they were, but I've kept that. Because that to me was just such a crappy thing for someone to do.
Is it filed away for a future book?
Kind of. There's things people do that you just go, if you can't sign your name to what you're doing, maybe you should think twice about it.
Yeah,
maybe you should realize if you can't stand behind your opinion, and say who you are, then there's clearly something wrong with that opinion.
Yeah. We used to live in California, Northern California, and the district that we were in, there was a major lawsuit brought on by a parent who the issue was he did not want his child to have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And it resulted in a huge lawsuit and a change in district policy that allowed kids to opt out of that. So it was no longer required.
Yeah,
it was really controversial at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting what time and money will be spent on.
Yeah.
Too. One of the funniest things that happened, our PTA was kind of struggling at one of the schools we were at, and I went to one of the meetings one night, and I looked down as I get out of my car, and there's a bag of marijuana just lying in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
And there was no cars around, so somebody had obviously fallen out of their car before they drove off. So I carried it inside, and I'm like, we need to send those kids. We need to send those kids on a field trip, and we need about $200 more. What's the street value? Of course, we didn't do that. We called the school district police, and they came and got it. Anyway. But yeah, so good and bad. Schools are little microcosms, of the whole world. It's definitely interesting. So,
well, and my husband was like, "Why do you want to write about a school district? That's so boring," because he lives it, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. It's rot with what's the word? Like just." All kinds of
drama. Yeah,
politics. School district politics are intense.
Well, and when you've got people and their children involved, because people will do anything for their children, you get those extreme behavior.
Well, and one thing I think we talking about today was that a lot of school board members use being on the school board as a jumping off point for other political aspirations, which happens actually in the book too. And I think that changes, if you're on the school board and your interest is not in doing what's best for the kids, you shouldn't be on the school board.
Right. If it's just for using it as a stepping stone to something bigger. Yeah. That's clearly what the character was doing. She was power hungry, and she wanted to make a name for herself.
And it was definitely what that person I modeled it after was doing too.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the kids, we talked a little bit about kids, but my heart broke for the children of the story. So you've got, Nessa that got killed and her children end up without a mother. And then you've got the deportations and children ending up without their mothers. And I just was like, that had to be hard for you to write, I'm assuming, because you've got children of your own. And I know.
Yeah. That's a subject close to my heart for sure. As a school teacher, my heart goes out to kids. And every school year when I would start, there's always a couple of kids that just grab your heart because they need something that they're not getting in. They need that connection. And there's just always a couple. And it's like teachers take those kids under their wings and just try to give them what they need to keep them going so they don't fall between the cracks. So yeah, it can be heartbreaking. And then when you can't get through to those kids, like all of your efforts are for naught because these kids have too many issues that you can't solve. And that's a big thing with teachers, right? Where we become social workers, we're teachers, we're, cafeteria people, we're all of these different things, and you just can't be that for every child. So yeah, it is heartbreaking. And, the immigration element of the story, it's true. We've been seeing all of that in the last few years. Kids and parents separated for a variety of reasons. And then kids losing, in this case, the mother because she was the victim. So
I know when I did a little bit of substitute teaching when we lived in Tennessee, and I'd go in those classrooms, and sometimes the teacher would have granola bars or like one of those kind of softer ones that
like the Nutri-Grain.
Yeah, I couldn't think of that. You know? And you think, okay, if a teacher goes through a couple boxes of those a week because these kids haven't had breakfast and haven't gotten, they're in time for breakfast, it's just sad. But
and like the free and what do you call it? There's the breakfast program and the lunch program, like free and reduced lunch and breakfast, where kids are able to come and eat. And so that's been a problem with the pandemic too, because you have these kids whose main meals are at school and suddenly they're at home and they don't have access. Like our school district has been providing boxed lunches, which has been great. And I'm sure across the board that there's been a big effort to make sure that that's offered. But schools are much more than just a place where you teach. I remember
that was an issue
and whatnot.
In Mansfield too. The nurses were noticing that when kids came back after the summer, they were malnourished, so they started a summer feeding program. So,
oh wow! Yeah.
So, okay. So my next question, we kind of have sort of touched on about the immigration issue. I mean, it's kind of a hot button topic, and I touched on that. And I had a book, Death, Taxes, and Sweet Potato Fries, where I talked about human smugglers too. And you did a fantastic job.
One of the Lola Cruz books too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, you did a fantastic job of dealing with that subject of really humanizing the people and the families involved. And did you set out to do that? Or I guess that happened. I mean, you kind of answered the question. So it sort of happened organically from things that you saw in your classrooms.
I guess, I've spent a lot of time in my husband's family. He's a first generation Mexican American. And so, I feel like I've been immersed in the culture and exposed to a variety of levels of economics through, sort of extended people in that context. And then also in the context of the schools where I worked, where he's worked, where there is this huge disparity. Like there was this one district where it was a great place to be if you were white because you were testing at the top of the state scores. And it was the worst place to be if you were non-white or Hispanic because you had the lowest scores. So there's just this huge, and it's always the achievement gap is always something that they're trying to close to bring equity. And equity is a big thing in education right now to kind of level the playing field. And so, that is just something that's close to my heart because, you just want every kid to be able to have a chance to succeed, and if from the beginning they don't have that chance because of their, ethnicity and or where they live or, whatever the situation is, like so we're just jumping ahead in questions. So we lived in Texas and they had you can probably talk more about this, but they had the Robin Hood rule.
Yeah, actually one of the first things I got published publicly was a letter to the editor about that. Where, because that's when I was on, the PTA boards, and my letter basically said, so in Texas, they funded schools with property taxes. So wealthy school districts got more money because their properties were worth more, and then poor districts didn't get much. So the legislature said, no, we're giving all the schools. They equaled it out somehow. I don't know if it was per student or how exactly they did that.
I think it was a percentage.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they spread the money around. So people were calling it, the Robin Hood bill because it would take from the rich and give to the poor.
Right?
But which I was fine with because that's trying to level the playing field. Because my point in the letter to the editor that I wrote is that the playing field is never going to be totally level because if you have wealthy school districts, PTAs make up so much difference and can add. The kids at our school would not have been going on field trips if it wasn't for the PTA. Well, I had friends that lived in a wealthy part of Austin. Their PTA hired a Spanish teacher for elementary. So their kids got an extra. Most kids are not getting that in elementary, but they wanted their kids.
Funded an actual.
Yeah, so it was almost like kind of they sort of created like a private school environment. So it was really interesting.
Then you think about PTAs, if in urban areas where you've got working parents and it's a lower socioeconomic area, and so obviously you're going to have a disparity there. So it's really hard. It's a hard subject.
Well, I'm glad you know something about it, and and it's neat that you could use your book to kind of educate people on that. So okay, and I also here's the thing that I love. This is maybe a little more positive note because I know we've got kind of deep here, but that happens. So you pointed out that teachers are kind of the bedrock of the town, like Mrs. Bransford, how she knows everybody and everybody was one of her students. And I think that's so true because I think of, some of the teachers my kids had, we'll never forget them. They still come up in conversation. My kids are in their mid to late 20s. We still talk about their kindergarten teacher,
Yeah.
And a lot of the elementary ones, especially, they set such a great foundation. They made the kids feel positive about school. we are friends with a lot of them on Facebook and stuff. And it's just neat to see that, and I hope they all know that how important they are. I mean, they are. Yeah.
Hi, Mrs. Wolf. Pam Wolf. Alex is my oldest. I want to say kinder or first grade teacher now, I can't remember, in California, and we had just kept in touch all these years. The Christmas cards, she wished me happy birthday the other day. We see her kids and her grandkids and all that. Very, very cool. And then my oldest son, he's had some big impact teachers. He had a 5th and 6th grade teacher, their Loop. So Hey Dave Hushback. Who's been a huge influence, and he sees him still, and they talk, and
that's so cool.
He's visited. Alex has visited Mr. Hushback. I'll always be Mr. Hushback. When he's visited California. So I think teachers can have such a huge impact on students, and just be a powerful force in their lives.
Well, I even named my first series, my character's last name was Holloway, and that came after a coach in my junior high who kind of defended me against some mean girls.
Didn't you say you talked to him about that?
Yeah.
Did he remember?
Years later. He didn't remember it at all, but there was kind of some mean girls that started picking on me and my sister, and things got kind of ugly after school one day, and I was terrified. We got called to the principal's office. Of course, the principal didn't even know who me and my sister were, so he knew we weren't the problem. These other girls were the problem. But they were all in my PE class, so I'd go to PE every day just terrified, and they would say things and everything. He came over to me one day and just very subtly said, "Those girls give you a problem, let me know." And I was just like, Coach Holloway has my back. My hero. So the first thing when I thought of, naming my character, I'm like, she's got to be a Holloway.
That's awesome.
And then I had a teacher, Jan Fall, and another one, Mrs. Anderson. I want to say her first name was Virginia, that complimented me on my writing, and I dedicated one of my books to them, Death, Taxes, and Peach Sangria. Because, it's funny at the time, like I didn't, because I was a pretty good student. I was, tried pretty hard, when I was young. Maybe I probably could have tried even harder, but but it was funny because those are the compliments I remember. I don't really remember, some of the other ones. I remember the times I got told for talking.
I do have a story, but first we have a couple of comments.
Oh,
so somebody, I don't know, have names. So somebody said, "I'm friends with my high school teacher and French teachers, and have recently connected with my elementary school social studies teacher on Facebook." That's Kathleen.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
that's really cool. And then Trey. I don't know why we can see Trey's name. "My 7th grade reading teacher has turned into my best friend. Our kids are just 2 years apart in age. We bonded over being moms." That is so cool.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I love that story. Yeah. So I do have, teachers can be negative influences too. So I was in college. I started as a French major. Don't remember hardly anything because I pretty promptly switched to English as a major. And then I decided I would go into teaching, but I really liked creative writing, so I was trying to decide, did I want to go the literature route with English or the writing route with English? And I took a creative writing class, and you have sections, so then you go into your little sections with your TAs, and they read and evaluate and critique your stories. And I had this one story. It's on my website, guys. I think it's still there if you guys want to read it, but so my roommate was in love with this law student who lived across the quad. We were in the dorms. It was freshman year. And she's a little bit older. She was a transfer student, but she lived in the dorms with me. And this guy broke up with her, and she was just livid. She was just brokenhearted. But she was also one of those, I'm going to get revenge. So she's like, "Come with me. We're going to steal his car. We're going to move it from one parking lot to another." So I was like,
Grand Theft Auto.
Not a great idea. I don't think we should do that. And she's like, come on. You have to, because it's a manual. And she didn't know how to drive a manual. And I did. Thanks, Dad. I was taught to drive with a stick shift. So
there should be a heartbreak exception to.
I know, right? She should be exonerated. So we went over there, in our regular dark clothing, thief in the night clothing. And gloves. So he left
That was smart.
That was smart. Well, it was halfway smart. So he left the keys in his car always, just in the ignition, I think, but maybe up top. I don't remember. But I think it was in the ignition, and because I had asked her that, how are you going to steal his car? And she's like, he leaves the keys in it. So really, it's his fault.
What an idiot!
I'm the victim.
And this
situation, just asking for his car. So anyway.
Stupid. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So we moved it from one parking lot to the other. Well, on the way, she's rifling through, like we dropped one car off at the other parking lot and then came back with my car and then we took his car and then, so it was like a musical car. So she's rifling through his glove box and I look over. Now this was in the 80s. Who was most popular in the 80s as a performer? Like a virgin.
Oh, Madonna.
And Madonna had gloves that had a finger. She had her lacy fingerless gloves, and that's what she had. She had all these fingerless gloves, and she's going through all of the glove box, finding some things that made her very unhappy. I won't elaborate on. And
I'm guessing panties.
I was like, what are you doing? This is definitely not good. So we park it, we go on our merry little way, just forget about it. Well, this guy was a law student. And so he was quick to figure out who was behind the Grand Theft Auto and used all kinds of threats on her. And she finally, she broke pretty easily, she confessed, because she had those fingerless gloves. She's like, what if they give him my fingerprints? And so anyway, all of this to say, I wrote this out in a story in my creative writing class in college. And the TA read it and critiqued it, and he gave it like a B-. And his comment was, write what you know. And I was like, wow, this was real, dude. So I didn't write for the longest time after that. He crushed my soul for so long.
Oh, what an a-hole.
I know.
Write what you know.
I know. So teachers can have a negative impact, too. So always build those kids up.
Well, you are not the only person who has stolen a car in this house. I am innocent, but my husband, who's upstairs, he had some friends in college. They went to Texas A&M, and they were in a bar called the Roxy that was in sort of a strip center, and they were walking back to their dorm, and they were kind of walking behind the strip center, and there was a Mrs. Baird's bread truck with the keys in it.
No way.
Like they were unloading, and they're like,
they stole it?
The keys were there. So yeah, they get there and they're tooling around in College Station. Oh no. But then they're like, we need to take this back. It's actually my husband's.
This is an unsolved crime.
Yes, unsolved. I hope the statute of limitations is right. And they're like, we need to take it back. But then they were afraid to take it back because they were afraid they were going to get in trouble, but they didn't want to just ditch it. So because they were kind of nice guys. They just kind of had this, wild hair to go do this. So they park it in the Walmart parking lot. They get on the payphone, they call, and they go, if you're looking for the Mrs. Baird's truck, it's in the Walmart parking lot. And they're like, who is this? Who is this? They just hung up and ran back to the door.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so I tease them about that every once in a while.
I'm going to tease them about that now too.
So we want to know your crimes.
Yeah.
What crimes you have committed.
Committed any
what
crimes?
cars have you stolen? So, okay. Let's see. We just talked about this too, the Robin Hood law. So, okay. On a lighter note, I loved how the book started with a wedding. And that Ivy's brother and
Billy and Emma,
and the sheriff got together. So that was just. So what made you decide to do that? Were you thinking weddings, or was that kind of a good way to get them out of the story so that Ivy could?
Partially, but I feel like they had been kind of star-crossed lovers all along. Emmeline is Ivy's best friend forever. They grew up together. And, it's only later that there was this sort of romantic connection between Emmeline and Billy. But, when Billy was available, she wasn't. When Emmeline was available, he wasn't. So they were like, star-crossed for a long time. And then finally it worked out where they were dating and together. And then she, in the previous book, Emmeline actually tries, the opening scene is her getting a ring and she's planning to propose to Billy, but then of course murder happens, so she derails all of that.
People are killing each other and getting in the way.
So I had them getting engaged, and so I thought, I wanted to show the wedding, and that would be a good way to open it. And they'd be going off on their honeymoon, and here's this new captain who's part of the force that's kind of a thorn in Ivy's side. So it was fun to figure out what kind of wedding they would want to have, who are they, and what would it look like. And then to just kind of bring Miguel and Ivy a little bit closer together in that context too, because they have this relationship that's been developing.
That's my dog just clawing on her bed over there.
I was doing some woodworking.
I know. She doesn't know how loud she is because she can't hear it.
So I had fun Googling because I wanted it to take place outside. They live on the coast in the fictional town of Santa Sofia, named after my daughter, Sofia. And so I really wanted, and Billy is a contractor, woodworker, jack of all trades with anything building. And so he's building her a table, like a beautiful table. And then I wanted him to build the arch, like the wedding arch. And so I Googled and found these driftwood arches that were so cool. And so, yeah, it just sort of developed from there when I started thinking about elements that they would have. And so it was fun.
What is interesting too, like how much of a writer's personality sort of ends up in a book. Like when I read your books and I'm like, okay, I can totally tell what's in it. Like just like the bread, she likes cooking, and it's such an artistic way to do that. And even that, the wedding, finding artistic things to do. Like I've noticed I end up, and I think you pointed this out when we've had another joint event, but I end up with a lot of motorcycles in my books, even though I don't like motorcycles. But I think I'm like a biker chick in a former life or something. Or I would like to be a biker chick, but they scare me. But
you can live vicariously through your book.
Yeah, so she's very artistic. She's really like, her house is really nicely decorated. They did a lot of remodeling, and she picked all the stuff out. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Really has an eye for all that. So
thank you.
My house is always just a mess.
Not true.
It looks horrible right now.
That's because you spend half your time up at your awesome cabin.
It actually got cleaned today too. Curtis was cleaning while I was doing revisions. So I was going to ask you about that. So I did get the feeling that maybe Miguel and Ivy are inching a little closer. Is that going to move forward in the next book?
Maybe, maybe not. Who can say? The next book.
Well, you can say.
The next book comes out in October. It's Murder You'll Regret. It's hard to say. A Murder You'll Regret. It's YULE, like a Yule log. It's a holiday book. So I don't know. Christmas is a magical time. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
I love holiday themed books too. Yeah, they're always fun.
This is pretty. It's not like over the top holiday themes, but it has some pretty good holiday themes all the way through. So it was fun. It was fun to write. So Cheryl says she loved the first chapter. Many tears. Oh, that touches me. I'm so glad. Not that you had tears, but that you loved the chapter, Cheryl. Then somebody says only. I can't read.
That's Judy. Yeah, only related to wedding stories. I have a friend who's planning to get married in October. It's her first marriage. She's 60. Well, good for her.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations to her.
Yeah, fun.
That's really cool.
And Susan says, loved him directing traffic from her honeymoon via text. York was a jerk. He was a jerk, but but he was a good character. I mean, being a thorn in her side and
well, you have to have a nemesis of some sort, and not everybody can be a great small town character. Yeah. So he's in A Murder You'll Regret, and he's better. He's not quite as jerky as he is in this one, but he's still not the nicest guy, Well,
he can develop and learn, but I mean that's the reality. We've all worked with coworkers who make life miserable. That seems to be their goal in life. So I think it's realistic. And adds some stakes. And
I guess you think, well, he does his job, right? Except that Ivy really contributes to that. To the solid. Yeah. So how much is he? Is his assholeness really worth putting up with when he's not like superstar out there solving all the crimes and he needs Ivy's help? I don't know. Maybe he'll lighten up. We'll see.
Well, oh shoot! I had a thought. Now it's gone. My brain is
assholery.
Yeah. What was it? Oh, about him. How she told him he was looking for facts to support his theory as opposed to seeing. And Laura had kind of touched on that in her book last month too. And that was interesting because that's something I've never come across in my research, but y'all obviously have. Mm-hmm. And it makes a lot of sense that you've got the clues need to tell the investigator the story instead of the investigator deciding what happened.
Here's a clue, and then working to solve that and ignoring everything else.
Right, because it's kind of like you can get on the internet. I could say, the sky really is purple, and I could probably find something on the internet that would prove that.
Support that.
So better to go out there and actually look at it and go, okay, this is what I see. Oh, and then I liked how there were several instances where you said, thinking of a potential suspect where it's like she would have had the reason to kill them. More so them than her, so she had it coming and going. She was
a piece of work, as they say.
Well, and Okay, this is going to be a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know who the killer is, right now, get off. But the fact that it was her daughter, I was like, man, because I just finished reading this book on my way on our drive home today. I was like 99% through it the other day and did the questions, got those drafted, but actually found out who she was today. And I was like, oh my gosh. But then looking back, I'm kind of going, okay, they kept kind of saying she wasn't really into being a mother. Mm-hmm. And you could see that happening, that if her daughters, she's a power hungry woman and your kids can push your buttons like nobody else. Mm-hmm. They know your weaknesses. They know, not that her daughter really did anything to deserve, her mother attacking her. But so, yeah, so I thought that was very believable too. But also like an unexpected twist that I just did not expect.
It wasn't, what's the word? Like it wasn't intentional, it wasn't something that was planned, premeditated, this nefarious plot. It was death gone awry. It was like this happened in a way it shouldn't have happened. So the title of this book was particularly apropos. They aren't always. Sometimes they're just punny and funny and they don't exactly fit. But this one actually really did because of the way it played out.
What is interesting, how some books kind of feel like they're a more complete package than others. And sometimes that just happens by surprise. Mm-hmm. And then other times it's, it's kind of no rhyme or reason sometimes to how those things all fall together. But yeah, I thought that was a really, I just didn't, but then I started looking back and kind of going, okay, there's some little hints there. And and all the stuff about the, having the kids that had the same father and how she had, she didn't give of herself. No one was going to stop her from getting what she wanted.
Right. And she was just one of those takers and opportunists. Yeah. Which, you never know how somebody's going to be received. So I'm glad that she came across that way. Yeah. And that her, not that her death was warranted, but that she came across as evil. And so, you're not exactly rooting for her either because she's not a good person.
I prefer to kill people who are not going to be as missed too. Yeah. Because even though this is fictional, we do have a little bit of like, ooh, we are killing people here.
Yeah. So take it seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So it is kind of nice to feel like, okay, if we can do it, somebody there's not going to be a whole lot of, there's always going to be some pain, but if it's going to be somebody who kind of asked for it in a way or something, it makes it a little easier.
And if it's not, then working really hard for the justice of that, and like having funerals and things. Like there was one, maybe it was Needed to Death, maybe it was the first one, and there was this death, and at first I had just like glossed over it. And then I had to think and go back, and I was like, no, somebody died. Like, there has to be grieving with that, and you have to have a funeral, and there has to be this process that she's part of, the Ivy's part of. And, you have to treat it with, even though they're funny, I call them happy murder books, but they're still about, difficult situations. Yeah. And so I think you treat it with respect.
Yeah, and trying to make it more realistic too, to have some of that stuff in there. So Susan asked, was the killer a surprise to you, or did you plan it from the beginning?
I did not plan it from the beginning, actually. There have been a couple of books where I've written halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, and I'm like, I do not want this person to be the one that was the killer. And so that was the case with this one. And so I really had to kind of go back and think, and as my character, as Nessa Rentrick, was developed, and all of these different slithering parts of her came out, and the sort of the suspect pool grew, I just had to think about who else could have done it, because I didn't want the person who I thought was going to do it. And then I ended up with her daughter. So, but anyway, to answer your question, no, she was not the plan at the beginning, but it was the right thing for the story.
Can you tell us who the original one was going to be?
Well, no.
Now I'm curious.
Because, I don't want people to say, "Oh, it should have been him." You could have saved the poor little Rachel.
Well, I had another writer friend, and I won't out her too, but she had a character die in one of her books, and the editor said, "Oh, I really don't want that person to die." And it wasn't a murder mystery; it was something else. How about you kill this other person instead? And she's like, "Oh my gosh, these revisions are going to require so much change because because of all the repercussions of that. And that's changing the entire story, to do that. But at least with a murder mystery, you're kind of planting these red herrings for all of the potential suspects anyway. So it's kind of because I won't out this person either, but we were talking to another writer who lives around here, and she was saying she doesn't know who's killed it when she does her book. She just kind of plants all the things where it could have been any of them, and then at the end, when she decides who she wants it to be, she goes back and maybe kind of cranks things and rejiggers a little bit.
Ink, cork pot, and used ink.
Whereas I'm just the opposite. I know exactly who it is and why they did it. I've got my little nerdy spreadsheet and stuff. Although there's still surprises along the way. But yeah, so everybody's process is a little bit different. And every book is a little bit different.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah.
All the stories kind of play out in different ways, which is interesting to find out. So.
Some come together much easier than others.
Yeah. And then some are like pulling teeth. I mean, I've had some books that have almost written themselves. I've been like, wow, I'm a genius,
I know. I'm done already. It's been a week.
And other times I'm like, God, I thought I knew what I was doing here. I have it all planned out. Why can it not go from here to here?
Yeah.
And it just, won't. But
yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now with the one I'm writing.
That's hard. Yeah. I remember one writer talking about, the good writing days. She said it's like you're taking dictation from God. And it's like, that's such a good way to phrase it, because some days it's just like can't stop.
Just
go along. So,
the character in your head telling you exactly what to write, what's happening next, where am I going to go next.
So what the Yule log bread, that's some kind of Christmas
so a Yule log is a sponge cake rolled up like a Swiss roll. Okay. And then
I think I've seen these like in a bakery. I don't know that I've ever had one though.
Yeah, and then we'll make one. I need a baking shop. And then frosted chocolate, and then kind of scored to make it look like branches, and then you do a little one that kind of comes out the side, so it looks like the branch of it.
Oh, okay.
And then you put a little
like a little ho-ho, little Twinkie.
Kind of.
The little chocolate around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and so the next one has a Hollywood spin on it. So there's Hollywood has infiltrated Santa Sophia. which is really fun. Actually, I wasn't sure how that would go, and then I wrote it, and then I was like, I wonder if my editor will like it, and she did. And then I was working on my revisions, and then just reread my copy edits, and I was like, okay, I really like this.
Cool.
Like, it turned out much better than I thought it was going to.
Well, it is amazing just how out in California, just how broad the entertainment industry is. We've both got kids out there. She's got 3 out there. My daughter's out there, and my daughter works in advertising, but there's just so much stuff that comes up. Like Fred Savage was doing the Honda commercials, and she got to direct him in a commercial, and that was really cool. And you want to tell them about what your son's doing?
Which one? So my 2 older boys are in the music industry, and so my older one does now with the pandemic, it's kind of changed. So live music for concerts. So he's been on tour with Ariana Grande and Harry Styles. Harry Styles sang him happy birthday, which is very cool.
Oh my gosh.
And then my second son, he works in a music studio. And so he's doing all the music for Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, and he plays all the piano in the second season. And then they were able to write an original song also, which is the first original song on that series. Yay. And then he does some of the samples. So like he'll sing it how the actor's supposed to sing it. So they send that to the actor to say, okay, here's how you're supposed to sing it. And so it's pretty cool. He was on the Grammys, so he had said he was twice on the Grammys, which was very cool.
Yeah, so it is just neat how this is just such a pervasive thing, in California. I remember, when we lived in San Diego and San Jose, and sometimes you just run into people. Like I remember going into a is it called Baker Square? What was the little? Yeah. And Bob Eubanks was in there. It's like you just run into people in weird places and stuff.
Yeah, when I was little, we went to like a Denny's kind of a coffee shop. It wasn't Denny's, but something like that. And Marsha Brady was there, like holding court in a booth. Everybody, like getting signatures or like autographs and stuff from her.
That's cool.
It's funny.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. So right now you're working on a book though between this one in the Yule log. You want to talk about
So
that?
the Yule log is done. So Murder, Yule, Regret comes out in October. The next one is Bread Over Troubled Water, which I loved. Bread Over Troubled Water. I haven't written that one. That one's due pretty soon, and I need to get going on it. But I've been struggling quite a bit with Murder at Sea Captain's Inn, which is the next book magic mystery. So that one comes out in July, so I got to get myself in gear here.
I think we need to go to the beach so you can have some.
I know. I need something.
We need to go do like a weekend out there, a whole week, a whole month maybe.
Yeah,
let's do a month.
Let's just forget about life and go to the beach. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, that'll be good inspiration for that.
Oh, somebody says they love Zoe. I love Zoe's original playlist too. That's so. What is it?
Extraordinary. Yeah. It's so cute.
Yeah.
And I love that actress. I liked her when she was in Suburgatory too. She's just so energetic and cute.
Cute as a button.
Yeah, it's a very unique series. I mean, it doesn't remind me like you can't say it's like this or that. It's kind of its own thing. Which
and they do music from all the different generations.
Yeah.
Billy Joel to Ariana Grande. So just such a range of things between and
which is so true because that's how people are. People have very different tastes about things. And what they like and what music means to them. And I mean, gosh, sometimes it's kind of like how they say smells can take you back. Like sometimes a song will take you back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember driving and so and here this music takes me right back to that place. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's cool. So well, thanks for joining us, guys. Or anything else we want to talk about?
Well, so somebody asked, did this book come out easy?
Oh, okay.
And I will say, yes, it did. This one actually came out very easy because there were a lot of personal elements in there from the school district and education, that I was really well versed in and had a lot of experience with. So it did come out pretty easy. And then, if you create a really evil character, I think that's a little, in my opinion, it's a little bit easier sometimes to craft a story around a really bad character because you have so many possibilities, versus a really good character. Then suppose somebody really wanted this good character dead, and that's very different than a bad character. Being killed off.
So. Fewer possibilities and stuff like that. Should we tell them about Scream?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So we are doing this cool new thing with our indie books. So there's a new app and it's called Scream and it's still kind of in the beta testing right now. But I think they can sign up for it, right? Or did we just get a special?
No, I think, you can sign up. It's in a soft launch right now.
Yeah, soft launch. Okay. But it's called Scream and they have a really cool way of, giving you books on that. So it's kind of a gaming app where you get a certain number of coins and you can read up to a certain amount in a book. And then if you want to read further, then you buy coins or whatever. So it's kind of a way that you can sample a whole lot of books and see, if something catches your fancy, then you can continue to, buy like by chapter or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the length is going to be. But anyway, it's a cool new concept. And I'm excited about it because my first publisher or my first editor that bought me at St. Martin's now works for this company. So that's kind of cool to work with her again because I loved Holly and working with her. So it's kind of fun to get to do that again.
It's really cool. So I have to do something with my settings. I can't show you the front anymore. But it's called Scream, and then they have a romance one I think called Kiss.
Yeah. So if y'all are like to read on your apps and stuff, that's something to look up and check it out. Let us know what you think about it because we're trying to do new things. We're both traditionally published, with the big houses in New York, but we're also trying to do some independent projects, which is fun because it gives us a little more freedom. It's also a whole lot more work.
Yeah.
But it's
really gratifying too.
Yes, but really gratifying because we can write whatever we want and
you're in control of so much more.
Yeah. And also responsible for so much more. I guess it's like some days I love it, other days I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do.
That's why right now I feel really overwhelmed with my life. So much is going on. But this is super cool. So Scream on your app store, look up Scream. And it's free. It's Crazy Maple Studios. And then you can look up Silent Obsession and Silent Echoes. It's on there. And then Busted.
Yeah, Busted and another big buster on there. I think Busting Out will be coming soon.
And then a whole lot of other books by a whole lot of very awesome authors. So.
And have you told them about Murder in Devil's Cove being on audio yet?
Oh, yeah. Murder in Devil's Cove is on audio. So if you are like me and love audiobooks when you walk the dogs or take walks or just drive in the car, it's amazing how fast you can get through a book in just 15-minute drives here and there.
And your narrator's awesome. I think she did a really good job. And I'm in the process
great.
of, she always does everything before me, and then she tells me how to do it, so I'm totally writing her coattails. Like, she does all the work, and I'm like, hey, tell me how to do this. Pretty soon, she's going to get tired of that. I'm going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, you give me a cabin to go to.
But so I've got those in the works, too. So I think one of them is going to come out, or supposed to be completed like end of July. So it'll probably be early fall by the time they get out. But I'm really excited about that. That's neat. Yeah.
Yeah, my narrator's working on Sea Captain's Inn. No, not Sea Captain's Inn.
Rum Runner's
Secret
Lane.
on Rum Runner's Lane. Yeah, Cassie's story, the novella. She's working on that now, and then we'll move on to the other one. But yeah, it's been quite a fun process to go through that and to be able to pick the narrator and listen to each chapter and give the notes to it. And so yeah, it's very cool. So all of those little milestones are really gratifying on the indie side. I would say.
Yeah, to feel like it's more your hand in there. And
yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, check out our websites because everything's on our websites. I have audio links and everything at melissabourbon.com.
Cool. Susan says, thank you. Really enjoy these chats. We do too.
We do too. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us on Sunday evening.
This means a lot because without you guys, we wouldn't have our dream job. And we know that. So we appreciate y'all more than you'll ever know.
We appreciate our readers so much. Yeah.
So thanks. And we'll announce the next book very soon. So
okay, and enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Early.
Yeah. Cheers. Have a great time.